Hey everyone, before we dive into this story, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel for more heartfelt tales like this one. Midway through a presentation to a boardroom packed with executives, the room began to tilt. I'm Leia, a 29-year-old digital marketing strategist based in Seattle, and I thought I had my life perfectly mapped out. My career was thriving. My apartment was my sanctuary, and I'd built a world far from the family who never truly noticed me. But that morning, standing in a polished downtown conference room, my vision blurred, a sharp pain tore through my head, and I collapsed in front of everyone. The gasps of the crowd faded as darkness swallowed me. When I woke, I was alone in a hospital bed, the sterile buzz of machines surrounding me. A nurse adjusted my her face gentle but unfamiliar. "You're at Harborview Medical Center," she said softly. "You fainted at work. We contacted your emergency contacts, your parents, but they haven't shown up yet." Her words hit like a blow to the chest. I wasn't shocked, not deep down, but the pain of it stung fiercely. My parents, back in Portland, Oregon, always had their eyes on my older sister, Claire, the flawless favorite who could do no wrong. I'd spent my life chasing their validation, only to lie here, wires snaking from my arm, grappling with an unnamed fear. Growing up in our neat suburban house outside Portland, we seemed like the ideal family from the outside. My dad, an accountant with a gift for precision, always had a plan. My mom, a librarian, filled our home with books and lofty expectations. Then there was Claire, 3 years my senior, with her perfect grades, radiant smile, and talent for stealing the spotlight. To the world, we had it all: a charming craftsman home, family game nights, and summer escapes to the Oregon coast. But for me, it was a different reality. I was the overlooked one, the kid who could never quite stack up. "Why can't you be more like Claire?" my dad would say, barely glancing at my report card. Even when I earned straight A's, Claire's science fair trophies dominated the mantle, while my photography awards were stashed in a drawer. I wasn't a failure, not by a long shot. I ran track, joined the yearbook club, and spent weekends tending a community garden. But next to Claire's valedictorian speech and Ivy League acceptance, my achievements were invisible. One summer, at 16, my parents skipped my regional photography exhibit to attend Claire's college debate championship. They left a note promising a makeup celebration that never came. By high school graduation, I'd stopped expecting them to show up. I chose a college in Seattle, far enough from Portland to feel free without leaving the West Coast, hoping distance would let me escape Claire's shadow. Seattle became my refuge, my chance to shape a life on my own terms. I landed a job at a leading marketing agency, crafting campaigns for global brands. My Capitol Hill apartment, cozy and all mine, was filled with my black and white photos of Puget Sound, city corners, and fleeting moments that sparked joy. I'd found a rhythm, a purpose through my work and my camera. But the ache of being unseen lingered. Every holiday call home reminded me. My mom's voice would glow talking about Claire's perfect family, her 2 kids, her charming husband, while my promotions and photo exhibits earned a polite "that's nice, dear." I told myself I didn't need their approval until that hospital bed, when the truth hit harder than ever. I was facing a crisis, and the people who should have been there weren't. The hospital room felt like a prison, the beeping monitors a constant reminder that something was deeply wrong. My head pounded despite the medication as I tried to make sense of how I'd gone from pitching a major campaign to lying in a gown with an 4 in my arm. My phone stayed silent, no calls or texts from my parents. I'd listed them as emergency contacts out of habit, a faint hope they'd show up when it counted. But as hours passed, that hope dissolved into a familiar pain. That evening, my colleague Charlotte visited, her usual vibrant energy softened by concern. She'd ridden in the ambulance with me, she said, her freckled face pale as she recounted how I'd collapsed mid-sentence, my notes scattering across the conference room floor. "You scared us, Leia," she said, placing a tote bag on my bed. "I grabbed some things from your place: pajamas, your camera, a charger. Thought you'd want something familiar." Her simple, unprompted kindness made my throat tighten. Charlotte, who'd only been at the agency a few months, was here while my family was nowhere to be found. Later, Dr. Hughes, my doctor, arrived with a neurologist, Dr. Sullivan. Their grave expressions made my stomach lurch. Leia, your collapse wasn't just exhaustion, Dr. Hughes said, her tone calm but careful. We're seeing signs of elevated pressure in your skull, possibly a mass. We've scheduled an MRI for tomorrow to get a better look. A mass? The word landed heavily, conjuring fears of tumors I couldn't voice. I nodded, my mouth too dry to respond as they outlined tests and medications. After they left, I stared at the ceiling, fear coiling around me like a cold mist. I was alone, facing the unknown, and my family hadn't even called to see if I was okay. That night, unable to sleep, I made the mistake of checking social media. A notification caught my eye. Claire had tagged me in a post. Against my better instincts, I clicked. The image loaded. A sunny photo of my parents, Claire, her husband, and their 2 kids, all beaming in matching t-shirts at an amusement park near Portland. The caption read, Family Fun Day. That's when it's just us. No drama, pure joy. The timestamp was from yesterday, hours after the hospital called my parents. They weren't just absent, they were celebrating without me, as if my crisis was a burden to their perfect day. Claire's words, no drama, cut deeper than any headache. I was the drama, the complication they were happy to leave behind. I closed the app, hands trembling, and forced myself to breathe. I wanted to scream, to call them, and demand why I was always the one excluded. But pride, or maybe exhaustion, stopped me. Instead, I clung to the small comforts around me. Charlotte's bag of belongings, the gentle chatter of Nora, the night nurse who shared stories about her cats with a warmth that felt like a lifeline. You're not alone, Nora said when I asked if many patients face serious diagnoses solo. We're your family here. Her kindness couldn't fill the void my family left, but it helped. The MRI was an ordeal of noise and confinement, the machines clanging mirroring the chaos in my mind. I lay still, eyes shut, fighting panic as I wondered what they'd find. Back in my room, the wait for results felt endless, each second amplifying my dread. Charlotte visited after work, her presence a steady anchor, but even her humor couldn't ease the fear gripping me. My phone stayed silent, no word from Portland, no sign my parents cared enough to check in. I kept picturing that amusement park photo, their smiles mocking my isolation. Nora became my unexpected ally, lingering during her shifts to share stories of rebuilding her life after a messy divorce, finding purpose in her work and patience. Family isn't always who you're born to, she told me one night, adjusting my floor with practiced ease. Sometimes it's the people who show up when no one else does. Her words sparked a flicker of hope in the darkness. But that flicker dimmed when Dr. Hughes and Dr. Sullivan returned with the MRI results. Leia, we found a meningioma, a tumor on the membranes around your brain, Dr. Sullivan said, showing me a scan where a stark white mass glowed against the gray of my brain. It's likely benign, but it's pressing on critical areas, causing your symptoms. We need to remove it surgically within the week. Brain surgery. The words felt like they belonged to someone else's life. I nodded, numb, as they explained the procedure, risks, and recovery. All I could think was that I'd face this alone. No parents, no sister, just me against a tumor I hadn't anticipated. Have you reached my parents again? I asked Dr. Hughes, already knowing the answer. She hesitated, her eyes kind but tinged with pity. We called this morning. Your dad said they're working on arrangements, but they haven't confirmed anything. Arrangements for a 2-hour flight from Portland to Seattle, while their daughter faced brain surgery. The betrayal cut deeper than ever. I didn't call them. I couldn't bear begging for their attention or hearing excuses while facing the scariest moment of my life. That evening, boredom and desperation led me back to my phone. Another notification from Claire, a vague post, thinking of family today with a heart emoji, tagging me. It felt like a hollow gesture, a way to save face after her last post-cruelty. I scrolled through comments from relatives, all praising her perfect family, none mentioning me. The anger I'd buried for years surged, mingling with fear about the surgery. I was done hoping they'd change, done waiting for them to see me. But a stubborn part of me still wondered. If I told them about the tumor, would they finally show up? The day before my surgery, I woke with an eerie calm, like the stillness before a storm. Dr. Sullivan had explained the procedure. They'd cut into my scalp, remove part of my skull, extract the tumor, and hope for no complications. 5 hours under the knife, then days in the ICU. I'd need help afterward, someone to stay with me during recovery. The question lingered. Who? Charlotte had already gone above and beyond, bringing magazines and a chess set to distract me, but I couldn't ask her to pause her life. My family? I pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on Nora's stories of patients who'd faced similar battles alone. I visited them that afternoon, each conversation a lifeline. Marcus, a retired firefighter who'd had the same surgery, was already planning his next fishing trip. Elena, a single mom fighting cancer, leaned on humor despite her family's absence. Their strength wrapped around me, reminding me I wasn't as alone as I felt. But the real test came that evening when my phone lit up with missed calls and a text from my dad. Your grandfather had a stroke. He's in the hospital in Portland. He's asking for you. Call now. My grandfather, the one person who'd always seen me, who taught me to capture the world through a camera lens, who sent handwritten letters to Seattle when no one else cared. He was dying, and I was trapped in a hospital bed, reeling from my own crisis. I called for Nora, hands shaking as I showed her the messages. He's the only one who ever understood me, I said, my voice cracking. And now I can't even get to him. Nora sat with me, her calm grounding me. You can't travel yet, but you can talk to him. Call them back. You're stronger than you think. With Charlotte and Nora by my side, I dialed my dad. He answered instantly, his tone sharp. Leia, where have you been? We've been calling for days. No concern, just blame. I steadied myself. I've been in the hospital, Dad. I collapsed at work. Brain tumor. Surgery's tomorrow. The silence was heavy, longer than I expected. A brain tumor? He said finally, his voice small. Why didn't you tell us? I laughed, a bitter sound that hurt my head. The hospital called you multiple times. You said you'd come, then went to an amusement park with Claire instead. Another pause, heavier. We didn't know it was serious, he stammered. They said dehydration, exhaustion. And you didn't check, I snapped, years of hurt spilling out. I faced a brain tumor diagnosis alone. I'm facing surgery alone because my family was too busy having a drama-free day without me. For once, my dad had no defense, no polished excuse. I'm sorry, Leia, he said, the words unfamiliar from him. We should have been there. I shifted focus to my grandfather. How is he? I asked. Not good, my dad said. Major stroke. He's weak but awake. Wants to see you. Travel was impossible. Dr. Sullivan had been clear about the risks post-surgery. Set up a video call, I said. I need to talk to him. My dad hesitated. Your mom and Claire are here. They want to speak too. Not now, I said firmly. Just Grandpa. An hour. Later, the video call connected. My grandfather's face filled the screen, pale and frail, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. Leia, my girl, he said, his voice slurred but warm. I hid my bandaged head, but he noticed. What happened to you? Just a little surgery, I said, forcing a smile. Brain tumor, but I'm okay. My strong girl, he murmured. Listen, the lake house on Samish, it's yours. Sign the papers. Your place, always. Tears burned my eyes. That lake house, where we'd spent summers fishing and talking, was my haven. And Leia, he added, stop running from them. Talk. Make them hear you. Then decide what's next. He drifted off, exhausted, and my dad's face appeared. Leia, we should have stop, I interrupted, my voice steady despite the tears. I've spent my life trying to be enough for you, Mom, Claire. I brought home awards, built a career. It was never enough. You chose Claire every time. When I needed you most, you weren't there. You went to an amusement park while I waited to hear if I'd live. My mom and Claire appeared, their faces stricken. We didn't know, Claire said, but I cut her off. You knew I was in the hospital. You chose to ignore it. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. My grandfather stirred, his voice faint. Tell the truth, Leia. All of it. So I did. I told them how their comparisons crushed me, how I moved to Seattle to escape, how their absence during my crisis broke something I couldn't fix. I don't need apologies, I finished. I need you to see me, to value me. If you can't, I'm done trying. The call ended in silence, my truth raw and undeniable between us. The surgery went smoothly. The tumor was removed, and Dr. Sullivan called it a textbook success. The first days in the ICU were a haze of pain and fog. But Charlotte was there, her smile a constant. Nora stopped by on breaks, and Marcus sent a card from his own hospital room. My phone stayed silent, no calls from Portland, no texts from my parents or Claire. But I didn't need them anymore. I'd found my people, the ones who showed up without being asked. 2 weeks later, against Dr. Sullivan's advice, but with his cautious approval, I boarded a train to Portland. My grandfather's stroke had left him fragile, and I needed to see him to thank him for always seeing me. Charlotte came along, her presence a steady comfort, joking about being my medical bodyguard. The train ride was grueling, each jolt a reminder of my still healing skull, but thoughts of my grandfather kept me going. We arrived at Portland's Legacy Emmanuel Hospital early one morning. I'd kept my visit quiet, wanting time with my grandfather without my family's interference. His room was empty of visitors, as I'd hoped. He turned as I entered, his weathered face breaking into a smile. "Leia, you came," he said, his voice weak but warm. I kissed his cheek, careful not to jostle him. "Had to," I said. "You gave me a lake house. Least I can do is say thanks." We talked for an hour about the lake house, our summers there, the way he taught me to see the world through a lens. "You're enough, Leia," he said. "Always were." My parents and Claire arrived mid-conversation, freezing when they saw me. "Leia, you shouldn't be here," my mom said, her eyes on my knit-cap hiding the incision. "I'm here for him," I said, nodding to my grandfather. "Not you." The tension was palpable, but my grandfather broke it. "Sick," he ordered. "Time for truth." He called out my parents for favoring Claire, Claire for basking in it, and me for running instead of fighting. "Fix this," he said, "before I'm gone." I spoke my piece again, calmer but no less firm. "I needed you," I said. "Not just during surgery, but my whole life. You made me feel invisible. I'm done begging for your love." My parents promised to try, their words tentative but sincere. Claire apologized, her voice small, but I wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. I left with Charlotte, promising my grandfather I'd return tomorrow. 6 months later, I stood on the dock of the lake's Samish cabin, my grandfather's gift, now my sanctuary. He passed quietly a month after my visit, but his words stayed with me. My recovery was steady, my photography thriving, my life fuller than ever. My family was trying awkward calls, hesitant visits, but the change I needed most was within me. I no longer craved their approval. Charlotte, Nora, and my hospital support group had become my family, filling the cabin with laughter and warmth during weekend gatherings. I'd learned the hardest, truest lesson. Family isn't always blood. It's the people who sit by your bedside, who see you when you're breaking, who help you heal. I was finally free to be enough.